you're in the new chair. Dallas, you're in the new chair.
Good evening and welcome to the Tuesday, January 26, 2021 Leon County School Board meeting. We are meeting in the Acolina Howell building at 3955 West Pensacola Street. We're happy to have you join us for this meeting today. Our first item of the agenda is to have our student school board member, Asha Harris, introduce the students who will be providing us with the Pledge of Allegiance and who will also bring us other thoughts. Ms. Harris.
Hello. So today for the pledge, we have Lainey Bellflower joining us. She's accompanied by her mother, Tiffany Bellflower, and her principal, Miss Carrie Anderson.
Will you all please stand?
Yes.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So we can't let her off the hook that easy. I'm sorry. So why don't you tell me again, what grade are you in? Fifth grade?
Fourth grade.
Fourth grade? You look like a fifth grader. So next year you'll be running the school though as a fifth grader, right?
Yes.
And so what things do you enjoy outside of school?
I enjoy dance and gymnastics.
Dance and gymnastics. And who do you train with? What gymnastics group do you train with?
Marty McQueen's.
Oh, and do you have a level? Do you have a certain level assigned in gymnastics?
No, I just do like tumbling
Oh,
classes.
okay. Well, thank you so much for being here tonight. And your mother, where's your mother work?
W.T. Moore.
Oh, you weren't in your mother's class, were you?
No.
No, okay. Is your mother let's don't go there. All right, so who do you have with you? Have your principal here with you tonight?
Yes.
There's Miss Anderson. All right.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. You've done an outstanding job, and thank you for driving your mother here tonight as well, okay? All right. Thank you so much. Good job.
Our school board member wants to say something.
Lainey is also in student council and participates in the National Elementary Honors and Honor Society, All A Honor Society, Honor Roll, and she does competitive dance.
Yes.
Thank you again.
Wonderful activities and honors. Thank you. Go ahead, Ms. Harris.
For Thought of the Day, Safa Hampton will be, from W.T. Moore, will be doing our Thought of the Day. She's accompanied by her mother, Crystal Stokes, and her principal, Mrs. Anderson, as well. She was the MLK Dreamer and Doer for 2021, the National Elementary Honor Society officer, the W.T. Moore Talented and Gifted program, and has all A honor roll. Her interests are learning Spanish, music with friends and teachers, baking, cooking, and much more.
All right. Okay, she's on the screen, I think. Safa, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
All right, we're ready to hear from you.
Okay. Good afternoon. The thought for today is a quote from Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. It reads as follows. If you can't fly, then run. If you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. But whatever you do, keep moving forward. I would like to encourage each and every one of you to use your unique gifts, your talents, and your resources to make a difference in our world. Leave your mark, and remember to never stop moving forward. I'm Safa Hampton, 5th grade honor student at W.T. Moore Elementary School. Thank you for your time.
Oh, wow, outstanding. Woo. Oh, my. Let me tell you, it sounds to me as if we have a junior Amanda Gorham among us. You know who that is, right? You saw her on TV the other day as she brought that wonderful poem at the inauguration. She is the junior poet laureate for the United States of America. You did an outstanding job. Thank you. And thank your parents. I saw a mom, I think, sort of hovering over your shoulder a moment ago, didn't I? Somebody was there. Tell her we said thanks, okay? You did a good job.
Okay.
Thank you. Is there more? She was a MLK Dream Endure, Miss Asha Harris. Was that it for both of these outstanding students?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, you did an outstanding job as well. Yes. Board members and audience, earlier this afternoon, we received some news about one of our students who had been found dead on his birthday. I just want to ask for a moment of silence so that we can support his parents and his family and his friends and let them know that we care and that we are saddened to learn of this terrible, terrible thing, okay? So if you would, just for a moment, offer whatever thoughts you need to as we commemorate his life. Thank you. He was a Ricketts student. His name was Jalen Jones. He would have been 18 years of age today. Thank you. We now move to our changes and additions. Mr. Jones?
Madam Chair, school board members, Mr. Superintendent, changes and additions for January 26, 2021. The superintendent recommends approval of changes and additions to the January 26, 2021 school board meeting agenda as presented. First, item 7.04, approval of personnel actions, January 26, 2021. Change the verbiage in the public content section and replaced documentation. Item 2, add item 1902. The superintendent recommends approval of allocating $25,000 in support of the regional COVID education campaign. This item was added to join the city, county, and other businesses in implementing a comprehensive media campaign to help the Big Bend move past COVID. Those are our changes and additions.
Is there motion?
Move approval.
For approval and acceptance, thank you. Questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
It passes unanimously. We're now at recognitions, none today. The District Advisory Council.
Superintendent, we were going to recognize somebody.
Superintendent
Yeah,
Spotlight.
Although I don't officially have a recognition, I do want to take a brief moment to
Okay.
thank Board Member Wood. As you know, we had a long presentation the other day about Bill's Trail located behind Swift Creek Middle School and the sacred ground that trail was located on. And there was discussion about some artwork and some other things that were really important to our children in our community. And I'd just like to thank Ms. Wood personally for helping find a resolution to that problem. And if you just want to talk just for a second, Ms. Wood, about the solution you found to this
Well,
situation.
I can't take any credit for this, really, but who I want
You
to
should.
give credit to is Adam Kay, who runs the Railroad Art Square. He's a really fine young man that's trying to make a difference at the Railroad Square. And David Plendle, who is head of Tallahassee Rocks. And a lot of those rocks that are painted by children are members of his organization. The parents take their kids out there to paint rocks. And then John Callan, who actually provided that art space for many, many years and brought a lot of joy to people. So Adam Kay stepped up and offered to house the art kiosk in the little library and the painted rocks at Railroad Square. And so they are going to, and they've been working with Danny Albritton, who's been very cooperative to help them figure out a solution. And so they are going to remove the kiosk and everything on Friday morning. And then on Saturday morning, people are welcome to come pick up their art and take it over to Railroad Square, or they will do it for them. So, it's a great solution to a problem we had to solve. And I just really appreciate those 3 community members and everybody else who helped.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Wood, for that hard work. We did really want to have a thank you go out to you for the hard work.
It's not to me at all. It's just
And to
it
those
was kind of a win-win resolution. So.
Okay.
Right, but you're the one that brought them together, so thank you.
Okay.
Okay, great.
All right.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Jones.
if I may get clarity, with this change, will there be an agenda item that will come to us to make some resolution as to the ownership of the tract of land? Is that still coming to us?
Not this evening. It will be after we have more discussions with the state. We talked about turning that land over to the state to protect the Indian burial
But
ground.
it's still ongoing?
Yes, sir. It's ongoing, but it will be coming forward.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you, Ms. Wood.
All right. Recognitions?
None this evening, Madam Chair.
Thank you. District Advisory Council, none to date?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
persons to be heard?
Persons to be heard?
Yes, Madam Chair.
All
There
right.
were no emails sent to the persons to be heard at leonschools.net email address, but there is one speaker here.
Oh, okay.
Stanley Sims, please come to the podium, give us your name and address for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes.
My name is Stanley Sims. I'm at 1320 Avondale Way. I was going to talk about Martin Luther King, but the thought of the day, I don't even want to compare to her performance. So I want to talk about Barbara Jordan. She said, America is as good as its promise. And Mr. Superintendent, who you know and know me well, I was very, very, very apprehensive about the movement of bringing our children back into schools during this pandemic. But I have to admit today, from 3 weeks of talking with parents and watching the news, of how this pandemic is having a mental effect, not just on children, Lord have mercy, of color, but white folks too. I know that ain't good to say, but y'all know me. And when I say white folks, I'm talking about our white folks on Highway 20. When children are running up to their parents saying, I'll be good if I can go back to school. That's the first sign of suicide. And in my minute role in your launch for this campaign, Mr. Superintendent, you would always say, I'm not a star student. I made C's. I had problems with math. I remember that. And what you were telling these children is you don't have to start out great, Lord have mercy, to be great. So I just wanted to come up here, and as you launch with this campaign about COVID, our young children who are sitting home because parents who are already burdened are now has another burden. And I'm not saying that you are not doing all you can. We've never been here before. These are uncharted waters. And Miss Woods, I love you and there ain't nothing you can do about it. The leadership that you have taken in here. Please,
Time.
Mr. Superintendent, just 30 seconds and I'm through. But this is important.
Madam Chair.
Mr. Sims,
This is so
we
important.
thank you so much
But I just wanted to
for
let
being
you all
here
know.
tonight, and we look forward to your next visit. Thank you so much. We appreciate you.
You won me over.
Mr. Sims, I'm going to ask you now to have a seat,
And I
please.
publicly say
Mr.
that.
Sims, your time is
Mr.
up.
Sims, thank you.
Thank you, Stanley.
Thank you. As we move along in our agenda, the next update for the District Advisory Council, will be February the 9th, next month. We have no reports today from the Student Advisory Council. That update will be February the 9th as well. There is no update right now from the Title I Advisory Council. Expect an update on February the 23rd. Moving to item 604, Exceptional Student Education Advisory Council. The next update will be February the 23rd. Early Learning and Leon Advisory Council update, none today. The next one will be February 23rd. School district updates right now will be given to us by Superintendent Rocky Hanna.
Be there in a second.
Thank you, Madam Chair. About a month or so ago, Board Member Jones had an idea and thought it was best that I may give a State of the State address or State of the Union address about the current situation with our public schools, much like the President does upon taking office or when Congress comes into session, or the governor does upon taking office when the legislature comes into session, which usually happens after the first of the year. I think it's a wonderful idea, but I think the timing for our school system may be just a little bit off. I would propose that we do that towards the beginning of the coming school year to first recap the accomplishments we made over the previous year, and then set our goals and sights on the year to come. Back in the summer of 2016, before the November election, Leon County Schools endeavored upon a strategic plan, and in the development of that strategic plan, overseen by Dr. Gale and her shop, in advance of our accreditation visit coming from Advanced Ed. So Advanced Ed came in January of 2017, shortly after the election. But prior to that, the strategic plan from 2016 through 2021 was developed. That plan will sunset this coming year. And so later this spring and into early summer, we will all put our collective minds together to reevaluate our school system and where we are, and develop a new plan for 2022 moving forward. I did think, though, it was important for us to maybe review and look at the 5 pillars that were set in that strategic plan dated back to 2016, and maybe review where we are with each one of those pillars. So as opposed to me, taking 5 or 10 minutes and giving you a 50-minute presentation on all 5 of the pillars, what I'd rather do is take one pillar at a time and give an update of where we are. The first pillar, Pillar 1, it talks about student achievement. And while we know student achievement is of the utmost importance, I thought today I would skip past student achievement and go to something that has been on the minds and hearts of all of us, especially since the Parkland tragedy, which occurred after this document was written, and that is for us to provide a safe learning environment. That is job one for each and every one of us. And I know Ms. Rasmussen speaks to this issue all the time, as do all of the board members. And I've said from my time as a former principal to my time now as superintendent, job one for each and every one of us is to keep our children and our employees safe. So I felt as it was important to give a recap of kind of where we are in the area of school safety and providing a safe learning environment. And then next meeting, I'll do a presentation on student achievement. We've had, as you well know, much of our conversation for almost the last year now has centered around COVID and the reopening of our schools and how we overcome the obstacles that have been placed before us. So I'd like to put a pin in that reopening and just discuss a little bit about the accomplishments we've made, in large part thanks to the gentlemen that are sitting behind me and others in the area of school safety and school security. So every year, Chief Hunkiar and his team goes to meet and discuss a comprehensive school safety plan with all of our site administrators, with every single one of them, to review all of their weather drills, their fire drills, their active assailant drills, accidents, and evacuations. They thoroughly review with our school administrators before school starts back their plan for the coming year. And our focus has always been on a violence-free, drug-free, and weapon-free school system. There are also mandates by the Department of Education about evacuation drills and other types of drills, active shooter drills that must be conducted on a monthly basis or otherwise stated in statute. As you also well know, we have committed to have an armed officer on each of our school campuses. We also made a commitment several years ago to add additional personnel, 50 security monitors, unarmed, that work side by side with those armed officers on our schools to give us extra eyes and ears on our campuses in case there are people that show up that do not belong. We also have added $2 million of upgrades. Now, a lot of this school hardening money was given to us by the state, and we're very appreciative of those dollars, to make upgrades to our plants and to our schools. We've installed a number of new cameras. Lots of fencing has gone up to 4 single points of entries at our schools. We have mass notification systems, especially at our larger campuses, where someone can get on and like they have at Florida State and FAMU, to let students know what's going on, and they could hear no matter where they are on campus, from the furthest parking lot down on the ball fields or in the classrooms. We've also added guard stations to several of our high schools, and we'll continue that process over the course of the next several years as we evaluate every site independently. But I can tell you, having visited our schools, I'm on my second round of visits now, that we have come a long, long way in the area of school hardening and forcing people in a single point of entry and protecting our students from intruders from the outside. Number 2, we have focused on behavioral threat assessments and suicide risk assessments. Every year, our teachers evaluate at the start of every year the students that are in their classes. And they'll sit down and have team meetings. Maybe it's a 6th grade team meeting, and they'll discuss the students in their classes and how they see or assess them individually. And if teachers come to a common theme or concerns about a particular student, maybe Rocky's exhibiting some things, if it's not just an anomaly, not maybe in one class that other teachers don't see, they might not bring it forward. But if Rocky's showing some of these behaviors in a multitude of classes, then those teachers would then turn that student over to a team, an evaluation team made up of the resource deputy and guidance counselors at the school, psychologist and the mental health counselors on site, to do a more detailed evaluation of that student. And then, if necessary, they would call the parents in and get the parents involved, and then give them resources to get help that they need. And we've never done that before. That's something we have done now for the past 2 years, and we are screening 100% of the students on our schools during the first 9 weeks. We also do mandated threat assessment and suicide assessment instruments follow-ups. All of our individuals, Mr. Sims mentioned about mental health. We've had discussions about mental health. The state now is also have a line item, a categorical that helps us address mental health, and we're very appreciative of those dollars. And with that, we've done a lot of training with our teachers in the area of mental health first aid for all of our staff. And then our teachers go out, and our staff people, and they present through EverFi curriculum, mental health, substance abuse, and suicide prevention or awareness, and have those tough discussions with our school children. That goes on every single year, and has for the past several, and will continue. In the area of the internet and social media, now more than ever, especially with our Chromebooks and our devices, we are reliant upon technology and the internet. Along with that comes training for our students of what's acceptable, what they can access and what they cannot access. We are constantly monitoring our students for suspicious activity on the internet. Our IT department, we did a budget items for a new filter at the last board meeting, so we can identify threat detection on some of the queries or searches they're doing. There's a member of Mr. Hunky, our staff, who every single morning wakes up and does an evaluation of queries that were made by our students the previous day and the previous evening. And if some of those rise to the level of needing extra attention, we call the site administrator, the school principal, the guidance counselor, and then we'll do an intervention even with the mental health counselor and law enforcement if necessary. I'm not going to put John on the spot, but I guarantee you that saved lives. That in and of itself, that action in and of itself on a daily basis, there's no doubt in my mind that it has saved lives. In addition, we have a goal to reduce student suspensions. We have an annual briefing, usually an update from Dr. Rogers in her shop about the numbers of students that are being suspended or expelled from school. And it's been, I know, heavy on Ms. Bowen's heart. She spoke to this issue, as has Mr. Jones, about reducing the numbers of children that we're suspending from school. And we had a program in play this year to provide an alternate for suspension that we were going to house over at Heritage Trails, but we've had to put a pin in it because of COVID. What we were going to prop up staff members, so if a child was suspended, the parent could then, instead of them being at home, and then the parent having to choose whether or not to stay home with the child or go to work, or that we would provide an alternative placement for that child during the time of suspension, so they wouldn't just be turned loose at home or out, heaven forbid, running the streets. I've also participated in a number of gun violence assemblies. Again, thanks to Dr. Kathleen Rogers for setting those assemblies up. Partnered with the coach at Florida A&M University, people with the Leon County Sheriff's Department, Tallahassee Police Department, other community activists, to get in front of our children, to talk to them about the gun violence in our schools. And Ms. Bowen, we just recognized, unfortunately, someone, a student of ours, who was unfortunately killed. Now we don't know the exact details, but to have the frank conversations with these students about being good role models, setting by example, and to hear from some people that they admire and respect in our community, I think is very important. And those conversations will continue. And then finally, our crisis response and readiness. We work with the district command center on providing hurricane shelter, during hurricane operations. Thankfully, we did not have to activate any of those this year. We have panic button technology in the rave system with all of our employees in case there is an emergency on campus. And then we have a 24-hour district service center that most other school districts do not have, that constantly in real time monitor what's happening on our sites and on our campuses. Board Member Jones speaks often to, if you want to know someone's priorities, simply look at their checkbook. And I am proud to say that we received just over $2.6 million in the categorical for safe school funding, yet we spend just over $4 million because we know just how important it is, and it is and will always be job one. We spend just over $23,000 in a severe weather alert system. We have a $22,000 contract with Raptor, which we run every volunteer and every visitor into our campus to check them against a sexual predator list. We have a $1.4 million contract with the Leon County Sheriff's Department. We run about another $1.2 million program with the Integrity Group for off-duty officers in our elementary schools. Our Safe School office is around a $400,000 budget. Our district security center is around a $300,000 budget. We have our own fingerprinting department. Now they do raise revenue because we bring interns and others in that pay to help offset the costs, but that's about $400,000. And then our security for evening and after school activities is around $75,000. When you add all that up, it's just over $4 million. But I sleep very well at night knowing that these men behind me and others are protecting to ensure for the safety of our school children, because nothing would haunt any of us more than a tragedy to happen at one of our sites, and heaven forbid we lost a child. Our parents, first and foremost, want to believe before anything else that when their children leave the house in the morning and return in the evening that they're going to be safe. And I can promise you and assure you that we are doing the very best we can to ensure for their safety. So with that, now I'd like to start into our safe schools to talk a little bit about reopening, where we are, some updates on numbers. I know Dr. Cox is on. I see Susan Young is also with the Department of Health. Yes, Mr. Jones.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Jones?
before, I think there needs to be a pause between the pillars conversation and then the reopening of schools, with your indulgence, Mr. Superintendent.
Absolutely.
Because I think that there is something extraordinary about what we're describing here. And I oftentimes talk about my being the rookie on the bench, but following the tragedy at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas and the state providing resources, it was this board and my predecessor, in cooperation with you, the superintendent, who made the type of purposeful and impactful investments that continue to protect and create the safest environments possible. And I want to acknowledge my colleagues and my predecessor for the purpose, for the plan of action that you had, and what we see now are the continuing impacts. So I salute all of you in that. We also realize that there is a clear and present danger with issues relative to juvenile justice and juvenile violence. I am the immediate past chair of the Sheriff's Citizen Advisory Committee. I want to talk, I want, if you wouldn't mind, sir, and I think the public deserves to know this, there is a collegial and collaborative effort with Dr. Rogers, you, and others with our local law enforcement to try to respond to what we know is a juvenile justice crisis. And that's also a safety matter for us as well. Seen also here most regrettably in the violence that has occurred just in the last 24, 48 hours. And so I would love for you to talk about that, if you wouldn't mind, just to expound on that some more, that our public would know that we are engaged.
Well, was it too long ago that we had a meeting with at the state attorney's office with a number of the key players and stakeholders in our community. And we sat at the table with Eric Trombley, the juvenile division of the court system, state attorney Jack Campbell, investigators from Tallahassee Police Department, folks from the Sheriff's Department, and we will continue to have those conversations because we need to be aware of what's going on and the things that they are seeing in the community that our children are involved in, and then how we can be proactive on the front end to keep some of these things from happening. But I applaud, I want to thank Jack Campbell for pulling that group together, and we'll continue to have those meetings with that group to see how we can be tuned in, or to ensure that we're tuned in as to what's going on in our community, in our neighborhoods, surrounding our schools, that we can try to get on the front end to prevent, on prevention as opposed to just reacting after an incident happens.
Madam Chair?
Madam Chair.
Yes, Ms. Woods, then Mrs. Rasmussen.
I just wanted to say thank you to you and to Mr. Hunkiar and his staff. I visited a school this past week, one of those ones that are near and dear to my heart, and we were talking about the new fencing and the point of entry, and he said this is really the first time he has felt safe on that campus now that that's in, because people can't just walk through and walk in, and it's a huge thing for the teachers to not have to think they have to have their door locked every single second, because people can't get into the campus now unless they've been waved in. So it's big. And, having our faculty and staff and teachers feel safe is the step number one to passing that on to the students to help them feel safe. So, anything we can do to calm fear down and provide safety at the same time is really important. And I think this fencing that's gone on has really made a big difference. So thank you.
Ms. Rasmussen.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Mr. Superintendent. I don't in any way want to take away from what you have reported tonight, because it is, in fact, extraordinary. We have come a long way in a relatively short amount of time under some unprecedented circumstances. So I'm very grateful for your leadership and appreciate your support of our highly regarded law enforcement team, two of whom are in the back of the room. As you all know, this has been an issue that's been of utmost importance to me for some time, and I'm sure Mr. Jones will remind you again how often I have said I'm not diverting funds until we've complied with the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas Act. And so, as you know, the grand jury report and the order from the governor and the Supreme Court is more about not what you have done, but what haven't we done. And these are the things that we can't talk about in public. And so I would like to request, and this has been on my mind for a while, and of course I talk to Mr. Hunkyard pretty often, I would like to request an executive session where we can talk about our points of vulnerability still and what we can do to address those at the appropriate time. So I just wanted to be on record for that. Thank you.
And we had, to Mr. Rasmussen's point, we had a visit from the Office of Safe Schools with the Department of Education in October, at the first of October, and then we had a follow-up visit from them. I think about 2 weeks ago, Jimmy. Right, just several weeks ago. So they've been tuned in and working with us as well. But to your point, Ms. Rasmussen, I think that would be good information for you all to have. What are our goals for the future? Where are we potentially still vulnerable? And I keep looking at I go through my list of people who are in or drop, and there's some people that I smile about. There's some people that I cringe, and this one back here, I'm just cringing the day. And I said this even when I was principal at Leon, and Chief Hunkyard was one of the best hires the school system ever made. I mean, he just is.
I keep asking him about the succession plan, so that's one of the things I want to
Right,
talk
one
about.
of the things we bring up. I think I've just been in denial, but anyway.
Okay. So are we ready to move on now? No? Mr. Jones?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I think this conversation is fantastic. I look forward for the remaining pillars. I know that one of the things that School Board Member Wood talked about when she was chair, how we compile, how we look at the annual reports that come to us from the hospital, from the city and the county. And I know that we've talked about that being a rather laborious, possibly, expenditure. But I think that the beauty of what we've heard tonight and what we anticipate hearing, I just want to know that Ms. Thomas and others will be engaged, that there's a plan by which this information is communicated widely and broadly. I think that we all know that this has been a rather fractious few months in the throes of the pandemic. But I think that this conversation and what you're telling us now, Mr. Superintendent, goes a long way in maintaining what we know is a confidence that is rightfully placed in this district and its leadership and administration. So, for example, for the remaining pillars, I'd like for us to talk about that we would publicly announce at this conversation that these are not just the ordinary moments of school board meetings, but that there is a purposeful, well-prepared presentation that will talk about what we describe as our values, our mission, and that we would communicate that to our public, that more would want to be present to hear this conversation, because this is good news.
It is, and I really appreciate your advice in this area, Mr. Jones, and because so much of our narrative has been controlled, as it should have been, by us weathering the storm and getting through this pandemic together safely. But there are a lot of things. Our schools district still runs. All these things are still in play. In addition to the masks, oh, by the way, and the hand sanitizer, we're still doing all these things. We're still assessing children. We still, are being held responsible for kids graduating from school and graduation rates and progress monitoring. And, so in addition to COVID, there's a lot that's going on every day in our schools. But this gives us a chance to kind of reflect and review where we are, and as we prepare for, to revisit where we're going.
To his point, what you just said, the numbers you gave us and the things you gave us, if it could, be put in a spot on the website under, annual report of our pillars, that I think that would at least begin, if we don't want to do a fancy publication like the county and city seem to be able to afford, because I know we don't like to spend our money that way, but it can go on the website and people at least can find it and
Right.
see it. And I think that's really important.
Well, and I think it's important, you mentioned something about our faculty members, our teachers, and others feeling safe at school. And I think it's important that our parents understand that, this too, because they want to have that same feeling about their children.
Right.
Right. All right. So moving forward with all things COVID, I have Dr. Cox on the call, also Susan Young, who we are in daily communication with. Chris Petley, I don't know how many times they talk a day. Chris's wife is probably going to start asking questions at some point. But I will say, just for the record, to clarify, because we still have those folks out there that we're hiding something, that we're not being and I continue to stand here every school board meeting and say that's not what's happening. We're in constant communication with the Leon County Health Department. But just to remind you, the cases that we are reporting on are positive cases that have physically been on our campuses, right? So if it happened where Ms. Harris tested positive, but she was never physically on Childs' campus, it never would show up as a case. But if she had tested positive and was on campus and there was going to have to be some follow-up contact tracing, then her number would show up in our dashboard. We're not reporting on the number of students in the digital academy that have tested positive. We're not reporting on over the holidays. The kids were never on campus. But what we wanted to do was to continue to inform school communities of the number of students that their child may have come in contact with. Was that number 3 today? Was it 5 today? Was it 106 today? Which it hasn't been. But just to remind you all, we're not reporting on everything. We're just reporting on those who have physically been on our campus, who others may have been exposed to. All right, Dr. Cox.
Hey, good evening, Superintendent, school board members, and I look forward to the day where I present on something other than COVID. Hopefully that's not too many months down the road here. Well, great to have Susan Young with us. Susan is with the Department of Health. And one thing that I think I've mentioned to y'all before is that in our process, in our protocol, if a staff member reports that they have tested positive for COVID, they're to tell their supervisor that, whether it's transportation director, food services, me, principals at the school, and then parents, if their student, if their child is negative, they're to contact the principal. In both those cases, the supervisor and the principal emails Susan Young, who sits on Leon School's COVID, our email address, and they pass it to my office and to her, and that's what she does. Susan mans that post, and yesterday Terry Anderson, who is our coordinator for health services, received 100, and Susan together received 192 emails and 55 phone calls. So that's the kind of workload that these ladies put in. I can also tell you we've been dealing with COVID. This is our 10th, 11th month going on, and neither one of them have taken off. They've worked through Christmas, and they work weekends as well. So it's this is definitely a group that's a bunch of hard workers. Susan will speak in just a minute. I want to review just a couple things to you about the vaccines. So we offered vaccinations to our 65 and older teachers. And we had about 160 take us up on that 2 weeks ago. And so,
That was all employees, though, right, Dr. Cox? Not just teachers. Right.
Right. It's our employees, all employees. Thanks for that clarification there, Rocky. So that's all of our employees. We also offered it to our school health assistants and our COVID monitor aides, health aides. Just as a reminder, we were able to get some grant dollars and hire a COVID monitor aide for the COVID classrooms for all of our schools for the whole year. So those folks got vaccinations. Our school health assistants got vaccinations in the 65 and older. It was a cold morning, wasn't it, Rocky?
It was a little chilly, but it was exciting to see some smiling faces pull through those lines that were excited about getting vaccinated. So that made it worth it.
Hey, and let me reiterate, those the most positive, friendly faces I've seen in a long time coming through those lines. That was great. All right, then this last weekend, we offered it to our subs and our hourly employees. Now, believe it or not, our hourly employees are already employed full-time. Sometimes we can set teachers up on an hourly if we need them to do something extra, but we offered it to our hourly folks and our 65 and older substitutes as well. And So I just want to mention to you that the vaccine, it's happening. Things are coming down. The Governor DeSantis had a press release out there today. And I want to say something on Rocky's behalf. So he really, really lobbied hard to have vaccinations for our folks with ADA. And we have, I think, what was it, about 70 or 80 staff members out there that for health condition reasons can't be in the place they're normally in. So he really lobbied hard for those, but right now the health department is under pretty close scrutiny that they stay with the senior population until we get it closer. But I don't think we're too far down the pike from that coming for them as well. I've asked Susan to come on board, and Susan, talk about our numbers, our latest positivity stuff, anything you'd like to talk about in regards to contact tracing and what all y'all do, okay?
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for having me. I did get together the last 7 days rolling positivity rates for Leon County and for the state. As it stands now, this week, our positivity rate is 8.3%, just the same as it was last week. So we haven't seen an increase or decrease, but we are seeing the number of positive cases trend down, which is fabulous. After the holidays, we had a little bit of a spike, and it seems to be leveling back off to where it was before Thanksgiving. For the state of Florida this week, they're at 9%, 9.05%. Last week, they were at 9.6%. So they got a little bit of a head start on us on the downward trend with the positivity rate. For Leon County students, we have averaged 21 cases in Leon County each day this week. But when I say that, that includes homeschool, private school, charter schools, and the ones we see reported for the public schools. So there's a little mix of everybody that I get to see. And then I'm here to answer any questions that you guys may have about our process right now.
No questions, Madam Chair.
Yes.
I just want to take a minute to thank you, Susan. Again, I'm just every 2 weeks we hear these reports, and you guys, we're in education. This was not where we were meant to be, and yet you guys are doing it like pros. And we can't say enough to the Department of Health for being partners with us on this. So, Susan, thank you for being here tonight. We really appreciate your hard work. Alan, you too. Again, just thank you for all your efforts in keeping our community. I get a little frustrated at the naysayers that we're not posting the numbers, we're not accurate, we're hiding things. Nothing could be farther from the truth. We are doing a yeoman's job. You are doing a yeoman's job of keeping our public informed and letting our families know what's going on in our schools to the best of our ability. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Absolutely. And I will tell you that we've talked to other school districts in the state, and our relationship with the school board and the health department working together closely is a better setup than anyone I've spoke to in the state system. We have a lot of
That's what we do.
balances to make sure that we catch every single positive case that could affect our community, and it's working really well.
That's so great to hear. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Cox and Ms. Young, for the outstanding work. I don't know where you are in your presentation, but at this point, we're all into thanking you for the outstanding work, so I need to add my voice as well. Is there other information you were going to share with us? We don't want to stop you. We want to, of course, hear what you want to tell us.
Well, I thought it was important, Madam Chair, that they share some of the, information about numbers, and
Okay.
we're tied to the hip with the health department. There's no reason. It
Good.
isn't like Susan's one of our employees, so they could even make that tie. And so, Susan, I do have a weird question though. Are you from Tallahassee or no?
I am born and raised.
Really? What street did you grow up on?
I grew up on Natural Wells.
All right, so I grew up on Mimosa next to and 3 doors down was a family, and there was a Susan Young. So you're not the family, the young family that grew up on Mimosa, right?
No, sir.
All right, all right.
Didn't find any lost neighbors.
Huh?
I think she's a little younger than you.
No, she grew up there. Yes, she is. No, yeah, she was. So there was a guy named Tony Young who has a band that went to Lincoln, and Tony Young had a little sister named Susan. Anyway, whatever. But Susan, thank you for all of your hard work. And I saw Coco the other day at Publix on Sunday afternoon, and I wanted to give her a big old hug. I mean, I'm just so thankful to you and all of your team and Claudia and Holly. I mean, y'all are under a lot of stress, and I think we're under stress, but I don't want your stress, but thank you for all of your help, and support. I was at Conley earlier today, and a student was there, was awaiting test results. Their parents sent them to school anyway, and they tested positive, and they had to clear the room. They moved the students to another classroom. I brought the strike team in to sanitize the room. Then they will do contact tracing, and the whole cycle starts over. But it's us continuing to manage what's going on in our schools day in and day out. And no one else will say this, but I'm going to say it. Our kids are safe in school.
Yes.
I mean, what's happening is, and I'm not going to call out a family member, but I see pictures posted of kids, of people going off to travel or whatever, and they're all huddled there, no masks, swapping sweat, spit, whatever. But in our schools, I've been in elementary schools, and every elementary kid has their mask on, their social distance. I mean, they know our kids are safe in school. A lot of this is happening outside on the weekends and travel and this and that, and then they come to school. So
There's a really good article in today's Washington Post I'll send to you all about that very thing, that
see, I didn't even know about the article.
kids,
I saw that.
this is, across the United States.
Oh, yeah.
That's one of the safer places right now because of the masking and the social distancing.
And because we've held firm on every single thing that we put in play back in August. And so,
I do have a sticky question for you, though.
and I would not expect anything less.
Okay.
I would be actually disappointed.
Okay, good. So, a week or so ago, we had some people complain about sort of too many people out on one day, and you said you were going to think about how to handle that. Could you tell us what you're thinking these days, what principles are?
Dr. Cox, did you hear the question? You and I talked about this, and there was, I got a text message on Saturday morning. 16 teachers were out at X middle school, and blah 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 blah, and none of it was true. It wasn't true. True, right? But it's kind of like even the pillow guy's is on Twitter restrictions, right? The pillow guy, because you see that and everybody thinks it's gospel, and I'm getting it from
Right. And
from union leaders and others. But to your point, Dr. Cox, you want to speak to our discussion about schools and asking for assistance and
Yeah. So what we'll do, and this is nothing new. Of course, our schools have always had what we call a 15% rule. So that's Ms. Wood, you might remember that. If they start getting around 15% of your staff out, you let everybody know that you can't let any more people take leave. This particular situation superintendent talks about wasn't true. It was reported as 16. It was 5, and only 2 of them COVID related. And when we get those kind of reports, we look into it right away. And during this last COVID times, most of them it's not factual information. However, we have let our principals know that if they try to manage it on their campuses, as far as if they have a number of staff out, now it's okay to combine a class if you can meet the social distancing. Remember that we're only at about 63% return. Okay, so that leaves, if you have, instead of having 22 in a class, you have 8 or 9, as long as you can maintain that distancing, it's okay to put those together because you're still under the normal class size. So we don't advocate combining a class, but if we have to for supervision purposes and we can maintain the social distancing, that's fine. Now, they also can contact our offices. I'll speak for Jillian Gregory. She has provided her developers many times. I have behavior folks, program specialists, school psychologists, social workers under me that I can provide. If we have to, we can provide coverage for classes as well. But talking to Sue Kroll, who's our executive director of elementary, the elementary schools have been great. They've been able to handle it. The principals have been able to manage it. But we do have a system to fall back on if we need to.
And we've had, to Dr. Cox's point, Jillian sent her team over to work at an elementary school because the whole front office had to quarantine. And so we're pitching in extra resources. But our principals know, and we've quarantined a number of classes since the beginning of this, right, Dr. Cox?
Yeah.
And if we have to quarantine classes, or if a principal comes to us and they say, I can't get out of this jam, we said it from the beginning. I can't, though, at 8 o'clock at night say there's no school at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. I mean, but if we have advance notice that things are building and they can't cover it and they can't get it done, even if we send additional resources because of the physical layout of the school, which they should be able to if we send additional resources to cover the classes. We have a memorandum of understanding. I saw Ms. McAllister with LESPA about our parapros getting time and a half and being and covering for teachers who are out. Our teachers, a lot of teachers are quarantined, are still able to remote. I know I was with David Souls at Astoria. The teacher was remoting. The kids weren't even in school, and the teacher wasn't at school, but they still were resumed in together. No one was at school. They were all at home. So it's just on a case-by-case basis. But to your point, we don't want kids sitting on top of each other. And we've told our principals know that. If they can't get at least 3 feet or more, they don't need to be in that space.
Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Jones?
Mr. Superintendent, there is a legitimate concern, particularly when teachers who have children who are impacted by COVID. What we also know to be the reality of the paucity of substitute teachers are made available in our district. And so there are legitimate impacts on instruction at our schools on a daily basis. What I would, if I may offer a recommendation for us to consider, I think that I don't know how we are communicating to our public the opportunity that is available through substitute teaching in our district, but there is great opportunity for those who are willing and able to make themselves available. I think there might be some campaign to enlist more assistance in that way as a possible career, particularly for possibly persons who may be retired or no longer in the workforce but are eligible and qualified to come and provide that type of support. We may also want to collaborate with our local career source that has pandemic dollars for workforce. Perhaps there might be opportunity for us to be able to identify mutually beneficial funding that can help to stave off what we know are these types of workforce impacts because of the pandemic.
Yeah, those are all good points. And as you guys know, over the last several years, we've increased substitute pay by over 40%. So we went
right
now to $14 an hour. Woo-hoo. I mean, so, but we are actively recruiting subs, and that's why we had that memorandum of understanding with LESPA and paras that they can fill in. Because even if a teacher's quarantining, they're able to still provide instruction, but they can't provide supervision if they're not physically on site. All right.
Madam Chair,
Ms. Strickland?
I don't know if this is the right time to ask about it or if we want to hold it till later. I was going to bring it up under new concerns, but I had a parent ask about end of year senior plans, graduation, grad night, all this stuff, and I thought, oh, you're right. Gosh, it's like right around the corner. So, do we want to broach that later? Do you want to give us a rundown? I mean, it sort of dips its toe into what we're talking about, but
right now I'm not comfortable.
Okay.
Sending kids out of town, putting 100 kids on a bus, doing I'm just not. And so we've postponed all end of year activities, at least for now, because there were questions about deposits for grad bash and this and that and the other. What about prom? And what about we're not in a place, I don't think, if we were getting guidance from the CDC and from the health department to do those activities. And so to start collecting monies and then to have to reimburse those monies like we did last year. To speak of graduations, I'll go ahead and get ahead of this. We took a field trip, went to the Civic Center to look around. Again, we had the wonderful experience in the parking lot last year. Mm-hmm. This year, we talked to them about moving inside. I don't know if you've seen Florida State basketball games lately or not, but they let about 3,000. The Civic Center seats around 13,000. They'll let about 3,000 in, which would accommodate a student plus 4. But they were going to seat them all throughout the Civic Center. So you'd have, Arsha sitting right here on the front row, maybe because she's an A, and then the S is up there in the upper deck, and then there was the question about the skyboxes and people with alcohol, and then one kid gets 20 family members in the skybox because they paid, and so we took it to our principals and had a discussion. Dr. Gale led a discussion, who's over graduation, along with Mr. Hanson, and to ask the principals and the kids what they wanted. And the thing we heard over and over again last year, as great as it was, there wasn't a walk across the stage. And we heard that again and again and again. And we were not going to be able to provide a walk across the stage at the Civic Center this time either. According to the current rate, now things may change in a month, 2 months, June, but we can't prepare as if it won't be like this, because we know it's still like this. So we're proposing Cox Stadium. We know we can get the 6 feet or more for up to 500 graduates on the field. It's a beautiful facility. We then spread out. We again would give each student X number of tickets to socially distance in the stands, a lot like we did with our football games this fall. Each of the student athletes received 4 tickets. Each graduate would receive 4 tickets, and then Then we'd have a stage in one end zone, probably the north end zone, that the kids could come across and receive their diploma, which was so important to them. That's what the principals voted on after talking with their student population. And so as of right now, we have one. I know. I just don't know how to tell them this. So there's one Monday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night. I will be at all 6. I would suggest that you represent your district, to be quite honest. So we're going to do one a day for 6 days, starting at 8 p.m. So at 8 p.m., we're hoping that any evening thunderstorms would be out of the way, and then it would cool off, because sunset isn't until a little after 8 in that time of year. So starting on the 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, 8 p.m. at Gene Cox Stadium.
Question, Mr.
Madam
Superintendent.
Chair.
Thank you. There was a time when it was felt that a Friday night graduation would have been the opportunity for accidents and such stuff. Was that discussed anymore?
I don't remember the discussion for accidents. I remember a discussion about religion on Friday nights.
It was religion?
Because we talked about that, but we have high school football games on Friday nights and other activities on Friday nights.
We do, yeah.
Basketball games on Friday nights. I mean,
all right, just
But that's the
I knew of
Jewish
some
Sabbath,
reason.
right?
That's the Sabbath. That's
Yeah.
right.
so we're, and there's still a number of people that go to church on Wednesday evenings, but we're trying to manage in a situation to give the kids what they want, which is to walk across the stage. We don't have an indoor facility that will allow for that. So I think this is taking it another step from the parking lot now to Gene Cox Stadium. And if we end up coming off Friday night, if we, I don't know enough about it to comment on it. If we end up coming off Friday night and had to go to early Saturday morning, and do 2 early Saturday morning, like we did at the parking lot, and early Saturday morning and a late Saturday evening. We know we're going to have to probably reserve Saturday morning in case one of them gets lightning out anyway. So, but right now the plan is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 8 p.m. Gene Cox Stadium, and then to wait and see a little longer if we can buy some time with some of these other trips that these kids enjoy taking in the spring.
So just as a follow-up, so prom is, I think the trips are on the far end. That's just, I can't even imagine we would discuss that. Graduation would be the first thing that we would want to try to lock in. Prom would be the next one. So what I'm hearing right now is we're not in an appetite to
I haven't,
schedule prom
I attended my senior prom and then I chaperoned way too many proms. There's not a lot of social distancing that goes on at a prom these days. I mean, maybe in the 50s there was a little bit of social distancing, but they get closer and closer together. And
Can't do prom.
I think, but it may be something later that if we see March after spring break, maybe we reassess. Okay, well, where are we after spring break, and throw something together. I mean, even at the high school gym, that's our facility. So maybe if we see after spring break things have changed and they can square dance or something, yeah, okay.
Square dance,
Prom
okay.
at Gene Cox.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Okay. Do, okay.
Go.
All right.
All right, do we have any other questions about, I was looking at devices, I was watching elementary kids that were, the whole class was zoomed in, they were all on their Chromebooks, we have some hiccups. some, here and there, but for the most part, I'm really continue to be pleased with how things are going. And then but I've also made a commitment, and I know you all will agree, that with our teachers, I'm going around and visiting teachers in the afternoons. I'm visiting principals during the day, and then for faculty meetings, I'm making visits to schools just to listen. And the hybrid thing's killing them, and I know that, you know that, we know that. And the big question is, please tell us we don't have to do this again next year. And I am committed that we're not doing this. And I do think, though, that there is going to be X number of our student population that likes this new way of learning and enjoys the flexibility of learning from home. And that'll be another animal we have to face, tackle, whatever, to convince them to stay with our virtual school, to look at other, about how that can impact our funding. Is there some type of blended model we can give to those kids? But what is that number? If it's 10%, that's 3,000 students. That's a lot of money. But there's no way we can do this school-based digital thing again. I mean, and I think y'all would agree with me. But we made the best of it. We gave parents and families options. We've met them where they were and where they continue to be. We've provided flexibility for those that were not being successful and encouraged those to return. On the issue of assessment, we know that the legislature's coming into session, so funding's a big question. Where we go with funding, what's the impact to the state budget? What help does the federal government get? I think we're all encouraged by the rhetoric or the change in administration and public education at the federal level, although it collides with the philosophy at the state level. Where does that give? And then with assessments, I do think we need to assess our students to see, I don't want to say how bad it is or what's happened over the last year, but I do not believe there should be school grades issued, punitive measures attached to those assessments. But I think we do need to know where our kids are. But again, Leon County Schools does not stand alone in this. We're like every other district in the country. And we face the same issues and challenges that other districts face.
Yep.
Madam Chair,
Mr.
just
Jones?
one last thing I'd like to also like to offer. I think it was when we last met, you were coming off the heels, Mr. Superintendent, of a conversation that you had with our community's leadership, the mayor and others, and you championed our faculty being deemed essential, and subsequently, because of your championing, that following Saturday, this valuable resource was then made available to our faculty. And I just think that deserves recognition and acknowledgement. And then, if that were not enough, you then went on to ask that everybody, all of our teachers, be served by the vaccine. And I just thought that merit acknowledgement. Thank you for being such a vocal advocate, and thank you for having these types of impactful conversations and always making certain that our populations and our stakeholders and our constituencies are well served. So thank you for that.
I appreciate that. I'm looking for I need 90. I have 90 that I got to get to the front of the line. Those people that made a request for accommodations to Ms. McAllister's office. I'm looking. I'm fighting as hard as I can to get those folks next. That have underlying health conditions, and then we can do the general population. But to your point, Mr. Jones, this is what I've said. It's nothing against any other profession. Every life is important. Every life is valuable. Every life is equal. And no life is more important than anyone else. But our bus drivers, our food service workers, our teachers, our parapros, every single day, they face germs from kids. And heaven forbid, some of those germs are COVID. I don't understand. I will be very, very, very disappointed in the governor if our school-based employees are not next. I can wait. My people can wait. But those folks that are on the front lines facing our children day in and day out, they need to be next. And I know you all will join me in those discussions because it's the right thing to do.
Oh, yeah.
So.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Superintendent. Outstanding report tonight. Outstanding work. The energy that you bring, the compassion, the creativity, the flexibility, standing up for Team Leon is what a good leader ought to do, and you are that. Thank you. If we were giving out trophies tonight, you'd get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay? So thank you. We really appreciate you. Okay, we're ready now to move to the items of consent general.
I move consent.
Second.
Moved by, what's your name?
Jones.
Jones. And second by Rasmussen.
Lil Darrell.
All in favor?
All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposes the same. It passes unanimously. That takes us to item 18.
I move consent.
Moved by, what's your name? No, Jones, and second by Wood.
Madam Chair,
And
I need to abstain from a vote
Yes.
on the item 18
yes, ma'am.
construction agenda, just in the abundance of caution and for perception's sake, due to my employer.
Yes. So spoken into the record, and so shall it be. All others in favor of this motion, this item, say aye.
Aye.
Opposes, nay. It carries 4.
Madam Chair,
Approved. Yes, sir.
I apologize, and please forgive me, but it was something I meant to mention when the superintendent was talking about safety and our safety updates. I also wanted to, and I know the superintendent has referenced Rod McQueen. I also wanted to acknowledge Rod McQueen. I know that in his
right.
efforts, and he and his strike team and their responses in our school has certainly, when we read these headlines and we see these sad stories about other schools and other districts, it has been because of the guidance of the superintendent and Dr. Cox and the wonderful relationship they have with our local Department of Health, and then the way we've been able to enlist our staff and Mr. McQueen and the local businesses that he is engaged with, who've been responsive every time our schools have made reference or identified classrooms and spaces that needed to be sanitized. He and his team have been there, and I just wanted to acknowledge him. And what I know has been, I've always talked about ever since my election the importance of supporting locally owned minority women and small businesses. And through this work and through our able to harness our funds, we have had enormous impact and created great opportunity. I wanted to acknowledge Mr. McQueen for that.
Mr. Jones, I thank you for doing that. I really wish I'd remembered Rod. He and his team are outstanding. And actually, I worry about them professionally and personally with what they have to do in making sure that everybody else is safe. So I want to go on the record also as thanking Mr. McQueen and that strike team. You think about what all of that takes to make certain that the buildings are safe enough from what they have to do in cleaning and that kind of thing. So thank you for mentioning that.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Rod, and others out there. All right, we are now item number 19. Superintendent recommends board approval for staff attorney certification specs. Ms. McAllister, Mr. Superintendent, are you teeing that off?
Miss McAllister, she didn't stay on this whole time not to say anything.
I can't believe it.
Thanks, friends. Good evening, school board members, Madam Chair. This is an opportunity for us to look at the needs of our district as it relates to legal support throughout our entire district. Before you all have received a copy of this and vetted this information as we look at the job description of a potential new position in the district of an attorney, a staff attorney that will work with our legal team, our finance team, our ESC team to help make sure that we are legally staying within and working within our boundaries as it relates to school board responsibilities. It's our hope that you will approve this job description so that we can officially advertise and to see if there is interest for persons joining our Leon County School community of learners.
Move approval.
Second.
It's been moved and second that we accept this particular recommendation. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposes the same. It passes unanimously. Thank you, Ms. McAllister. 19.02. Dr. Gale? Oh, there you are.
Yes, ma'am. Good evening, Madam Chair, Superintendent, and board members. On yesterday, the superintendent did talk to you extensively, and you had a robust conversation about an opportunity for the regional COVID education campaign. You all received a PowerPoint presentation which the superintendent went through with you, and this request is for $25,000 so that we can be a part of this community campaign. Within our community, it is safe to say that 1 out of 3 people are touched by either a student, an employee, or someone who's associated with Leon County Schools. So this is an absolute fit for us to be a part of this. The City of Tallahassee, the Leon County, and other private agencies will be contributing to this consistent measure and message that we will do regarding informing our public, if you will, of the importance of vaccinations and such.
I move approval.
Moved by Jones,
Second.
second by Wood.
Madam Chair.
Go ahead, Ms. Rasmussen.
Thank you.
Discussion.
I wanted you all to know that I've thought long and hard about this since our call yesterday. And I want to acknowledge specifically Mr. Jones and Ms. Bowen, because I thought a lot about the perspective that you both provided that I hadn't really thought through. And I think that's one of the beautiful things about this board, is that we all come from different places and we can contribute to the conversation from different places. Similarly, Ms. Striplin, your creative thinking about how we could potentially contribute, and Ms. Wood, your sage tutelage, let's just call it that. That said, and I really have thought a lot about it, and I'm not opposed, but I just want to give one thought. I'm a little bit concerned about the fact that we are looking down the barrel at some pretty substantial budget cuts, and we have managed to avoid some pretty substantial budget cuts. And I just don't want to leave anybody with the wrong impression that we are, reappropriating funds that could have gone to the classroom, be it our teachers or legislators or, people who are going to make these budgeting decisions for us. As Mr. Jones knows, I have said I wasn't going to vote for any reappropriation of funds until we had our Marjorie Stoneman Douglas Act in place and intact, and I think we've come a long way, and I've already talked about that tonight. But I would just like to recommend, and I talked to some of the folks involved in this proposal today on the phone, and I would just like to recommend that if there is a way that we can find a way to participate along the lines of Ms. Striplin's idea about using the in-kind contributions, the parental listservs, the marquees in front of our schools, and if we can find either through our foundation or through some corporate sponsors or through the federal money that may or may not be coming down, if there's a way that we can participate without using our money that would otherwise be going to the classroom, that I think that would be in our best interest. And so I think there's a way that we can do that. And so I think we could vote for this tonight and then hope that the superintendent can continue to work with the parties involved to see if that's possible.
Mr. Jones?
If I may, as a recommendation, a follow-up to what you've expressed, I agree with the investment, and what I would hope that perhaps could be a part of I think I'm the one who made the motion for approval. What we could do is identify by consent that the monies would be reimbursed as additional federal funds associated with economic, in terms of like the CARES money, right? If those monies are made available to us, we would then reimburse the district. And I know we have made these types of expenditures before and waited till grant dollars came or other identified funds came, and we could perhaps include that as I'm willing to make that amendment to the motion that the monies would be reimbursed from other sources.
If they can be.
And we would then trust the staff and the superintendent to identify those resources. I think that provides us with some type of consensus.
And I agree, Mr. Jones, and I feel confident that Ms. Banks is on this call. And, I struggle with this one too. I think all of us have, but time is of the essence, I think, with this campaign to get up and running. But I can assure you, no stone will go unturned for us to look at other options and opportunities to reimburse this account.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Superintendent. I really didn't struggle with it. Perhaps I will later on tonight, but in my mind, I saw this as an opportunity to provide additional kind of education for a community where many African American folk need to be, and others, educated. And so I'm still there. That's where I am. And so I hear you all, and in my mind, I'm thinking, if we can get this particular program campaign out there, we will be keeping kids alive and families alive. So that's the bottom line for me on it. I don't know how to more eloquently put it. I can't put it any other way, but in my mind, that's what I see.
I agree
This
with you.
would be
And if
keep
you're right,
kids
Madam,
alive.
and to what Dr. Gale said, if we have, 30 plus thousand students, that's 60 plus thousand parents and 5,000 employees, nearly one third of the population of Leon County is directly touched by the Leon County school system.
Totally. So, okay.
I-
Further discussion. Go ahead.
And Madam Chair, I agree
Yes.
with you 100%. I think that is, if as I revisit our conversation yesterday, it is the education of our community. Any way we can be a part of that, I think is important.
Yeah.
I think our only issue now, and it's really not even an issue, because if all hearts are clear, I don't mind making the addition to my motion, which I think was seconded by Ms. Wood, that the monies we would support the recommendation coming from the superintendent,
All right.
with the addition that those monies would then ultimately be reimbursed, or there would be an effort made to for those monies to be reimbursed
If
from
possible.
other sources, right?
If possible.
Outside, I'm sorry.
From other sources, right? But we would trust the superintendent and his team to identify. And so that would be, if that works with Ms. Wood, that would be my change to the motion. Am I doing this right, Ms. Williams?
Yeah, I think it would be helpful if you stated it one more time.
One more time, okay. I move the recommendation of the superintendent to include that the monies, that the $25,000 being made available will ultimately be reimbursed from other sources as made available and identified by the superintendent and his team.
If possible. Right, because there may not be any, but I agree with, I think we all agree with the intention of.
So is that a second to his motion?
Yes, I'm just adding those two words if possible.
Are you comfortable with that?
No.
Okay, well.
Well, I mean, just, there may not be other.
Well, I mean, but
I hope
we,
there will be, but it may not.
I don't want there to be an escape gap here. I think that we know that the CARES monies are coming. The superintendent is confident in that. He said Ms. Wood is working, not Ms. Wood, what's her name?
Thanks.
Ms. Banks is working on it. I just don't.
I mean, we trust the superintendent. to
Right,
do
so that's why I
whatever's
don't think that
possible.
we have.
We don't know what's going to be in the CARES money, and we can't state it absolutely.
No, but then there are other sources that he said that they can identify.
Well, that's what if possible means.
So,
I'm not going to try. I'm not running from this. It's just as important to me as it is to you
Right.
to reimburse that $25,000. I'm going to look under, like I said, me, Kim, Naomi. We'll look, but I don't know that I can make a 100% guarantee. Is I think what she's saying. And Ms. Banks, you want to weigh in since you're?
No, I mean, I'm good. I'll take the if possible. Let's move the motion.
okay, you have heard the motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposers? Okay, it passes unanimously. Thank you.
What a team.
All righty, we
You
are.
and your commas.
We'll find it.
Okay,
find it, but I
we
just-
are now at report from board liaisons. None. Superintendent's comments.
No, she stole my thunder. We went ahead and talked about graduations. Got that out of the way.
Yeah, you did.
So here's is this in their packet?
What's that?
So this is just what I said. Monday, Tuesday, Get some
Oh,
sleep.
okay.
Monday,
We'll see
Tuesday,
that.
Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 8 p.m.
Sunday love. Okay, thank you. Continuing concerns from board members. None?
I have
You got a, yes,
continuing
you do.
No, I have a new one.
Okay, because I got a new one too, but for my continuing concern, I just want to acknowledge Dr. Gale
in that
and Ms.
mic.
Huh?
Yeah, that's good.
On my continuing concern, I want to acknowledge Dr. Gale and Ms. Coffey. You may recall that there was during the course of the pandemic, a great number of some of our stuff had to lay aside a great number of things in an effort to put our great focus on the safety of our schools, our Safe Schools program. At the December 8th meeting, I believe it was, I talked about a whole lot of stuff that I had talked about, even written newspaper columns about. And I want to thank Dr. Gale and Ms. Coffey for what they have done to help to organize what has been my previous continuing concerns and help me to put some legs to all of those things and help me to schedule meetings to get all of that done. So I just want to acknowledge them. That's my continuing concern. Their continuing assistance in facilitating my voluminous concerns. So thank you. I appreciate you so very much.
And so he should. Thank you, Mr. Jones.
So I should.
Yeah, and so you should. Ms. Strickland,
Thank you.
did you have
Like Mr. Jones is more of a, I think we're all full of gratitude and warmness tonight.
it's that shirt.
Secondary to educating our children and keeping them safe is the financial responsibility that we have and that the superintendent and his team have at this district, is taking care of publicly given dollars and spending them correctly and making sure that there are no deficiencies. And we received our report from the Auditor General's office about a week ago, fiscal year ending June 30 of 2020. No deficiencies, no findings, no nothing. It was the shortest, shortest report I think I've ever seen. I kept looking, I'm like, what am I missing here? Where are they? And I just cannot thank Kim, Banks, Naomi, the entire team. I know there's more people over there, but that is a huge job. And I know we were all fearful when Meryl left us, and we thought, oh my goodness, this is who could ever step into these shoes, and to look at that piece of paper and know that we are financially in great shape. There was no nothing. I mean, just thank you to her team. You're to be commended. We are grateful for you, for your team. We're grateful for you to be part of this district. It's really incredible. So couldn't go without mentioning.
We continue to give out.
That was your concern?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That is an awesome concern.
Eating over, quick,
Totally stole our whole deal. No, we'll talk about it more than once. So, Kim, you want to jump on?
Wait, I have to do an audit committee report.
Right.
for
So
next
we have to
meeting,
do.
so-
When are y'all doing that?
It's next time.
Next
the
meeting.
next meeting.
Yes.
Yeah. So we'll brag tonight. We're gonna brag again.
Yep.
I mean, so that's
Deserves
We've
it.
got bragging rights.
the Auditor General comes every 3 years. That's 2 cycles in a row. The Auditor General has visited Leon County Schools and had 0 findings.
I'm about to break out the pom poms.
I mean, that is. It's amazing. I mean, it's nothing short of amazing. And so, yes.
Yes, we work hard, but we play hard as well. Other comments? Okay. New issues from board members? You've got one? You do, don't you? Yes, of course, Mr. Jones.
You ready for me?
Yeah, I'm ready.
I have, as you can imagine, in our conversations with our constituents, I remember when School Board Member Wood was a candidate, and one of the things that she talked about was the resegregation of schools. And it is a subject that reappears in conversations with my constituents. And I will be the first to admit that I am not entirely well versed on the issue. And I have not heard a great deal of discussion about that topic since my election. What I'd like to do is I would like to ask the staff to give me whatever information we have regarding the issue of resegregation of schools, any previous minutes, topics, workshops that we have had, that I might be made aware. If my colleagues are interested in that same information, such that if it requires an additional discussion, that we'd be equipped with that information to do so. I, for one, and then again, I admit that I am unaware. I believe in neighborhood schools. And because I believe in neighborhood schools, I don't know if the resegregation of our schools is an issue greater than that. Then I've also been a vocal champion on our identifying resources to meet what we know is glaring disparity in Title I schools. I don't know if that's a part of that discussion, but I would like to be armed with the information such that we as a district can communicate to our public where we stand on the issue and what we do to resolve it, to mitigate it, to diminish it. But I would like to be more well informed, and I'd like to get that information as soon as possible such that, armed with that information, I can then be able to resume conversations with my colleagues, because I have not heard that discussion relative to resegregation of schools most specifically since I was elected, and I'd like to get a handle on that issue. So that's my first concern. My second concern is I don't know if you all are aware, but I know as we do our public comments and our recognitions, I would like for us to pause at one of our meetings in February and acknowledge the community treasure that is Mrs. Altamise Barnes. Tonight she was acknowledged. I believe she may be retiring from the Riley House. Yes. You know, the district has had a long-standing relationship with the Riley House. The superintendent has continued, he and Ms. Bowen have continued to advocate for what has been our tradition of our fourth grade students going to Riley House on an annual basis across the district. She has received our community's highest honor, the Lifetime Leadership Award. And I thought, and because of what has been my ongoing work with her, most specifically with the integration of the original Lincoln High School and the current Lincoln High School, my recommendations regarding the acknowledgement of Emancipation Day, May 20th, just since my election, I have been involved with her, but I would like for us, along with the staff, to schedule a moment where we can bring her to the district and acknowledge her for her great work and her service to this community, and she too a master teacher outside of the formality of our traditional classroom, still a master teacher nonetheless, and I'd like to acknowledge her. Those are my concerns.
That's a great concern.
To the first one, we'll get you that information. And to the second one, I couldn't agree more, and we will definitely make that happen in the first meeting of February or one of the meetings in February. She is a treasure and resource to our community. She's going to be sorely missed at the Riley House, but we do owe her a lot of gratitude, so we will make that happen.
Great idea.
Great idea. I look forward to it. As a matter of fact, I serve on the Riley House board myself.
Oh, just
and
okay.
That's a wonderful thing, and it is happening tonight, but I needed to be here. So thank you for that, Mr. Jones. Okay. Other new issues from board members. I just need to say very quickly that you already know that on January 15th, the MLK virtual celebration for dreamers and doers happened. In the past, before COVID changed all of our lives, we would go down to the Civic Center and we'd reach out and touch these beautiful children who had excelled and achieved and brought their parents with them down to the Civic Center, and we gave out medallions and we hugged and we visited. COVID is not allowing us to do that anymore. And so tonight I just feel that it is fitting for us to come in and celebrate and thank those children and those parents for being part of that virtual celebration. And thank God, Dr. Gale and staff who continues to make us look good and make so many things happen. You know, when I talk to my children about Martin Luther King, and this month is the month of his birthday, January 18th, as you know, I say to them, there's not a whole lot more that can be said about King. In lots of instances, some folk have deified him, but he was a man. He walked, he talked, he made mistakes, he had challenges and successes. And so I want to say to the children, as they continue to learn in the Leon County school system, don't give up. Continue to strive. continue to excel for excellence. Continue to know that you can make a difference, because it is what I think King did in trying to show America that all Americans should be involved in this thing called democracy and equality. And so sometimes you just can't think of anything else that could be said about King and his greatness. But as we sit here and we look at each other tonight, and we look at those who are in privilege or who have experienced the kind of privileges that others of us, we thank you for what you do. And so, Mr. Superintendent, I thank you for providing opportunities for the children. And I don't want anybody to color my remarks as those are black remarks. These are remarks for all of the children, because King was for all of us, not just the black folk, because the black folk and the other folk working together make America as great as it is. And so I think about our children and how they are not anymore having the kind of connectedness because of COVID. They are separated. And because of that separation, there are some problems that they are starting, I think, to have. The mental health issues, and some of us as well. The kind of quarantining and sheltering away from each other. It's like there's something in the wind that's causing us sometimes not to even think straight. And so King was about, we are our brother's keeper, and we do care about each other. And so I say to us, in the spirit of Martin Luther King, leave no one behind. Continue to do what we need to do to uplift and undergird the greatness that I think America is supposed to be about. And so thank you again to you, Dr. Gale, and the America Dreamers and doers and the little boys and girls and the mamas and daddies who would be so proud to get up at 5:30 in the morning to have those kids at the Civic Center. It didn't make any sense, and they came in like they were getting trophies.
Yeah.
And so when you see in the eyes of those little children that small event in our minds, but how big it is in theirs, and it goes to me to think, your dress does not dictate your success. And so I could say much more, but in this time that we are living, I do hope that we will continue to reach out and help each other, and to understand and have folk know that mental health is still physical health. There are a lot of people who don't think that mental health is as important as getting a checkup, you know? But I think that we're going to have to find a way, Mr. Superintendent, and I haven't figured it out yet, on what more we can do to reach our students who are having dark thoughts and who are perhaps contemplating ugly kinds of things or dastardly kinds of things to happen to them. It's happening. We get those calls. And so I need to say, as I close this, we are here for each other. Reach out. Call someone if you start to feel lonely and you don't know what to do. Call a neighbor. Call a friend. And to those of us who get out rarely, smile at each other. Say hello. There are a lot of lonely people who just need somebody to notice them in a good way. I know I'm taking a little far, but I just need to go there because I need to go there. Thank you.
Well, Madam Chair, and I appreciate those remarks, but I owe a big deal of gratitude, all of us, to Dr. Kathleen Rogers. That event is kind of
That's
her.
right.
That's kind of her baby. Dr. Gale has the night of celebration. You can't put both of those on one person because they're such large events.
Thank you.
But
Thank you.
Dr. Kathleen Rogers ensured that all those children received their medallions at the schools. They had pictures taken with their principals. We've had a wonderful, long-standing relationship with the NAACP here locally, and continue that. Although it wasn't perfect, the show must go on. The show did go on, and will continue to go on.
Yes.
And we also know life is precious, life is short. We also lost Anita Davis.
That's right. That was my next thought.
Leader, and
yep.
you know, I had a comment. I know we want to go, but
we do.
We had a visitor, Barney. I'm going to go ahead and call him out. Barney Bishop, who goes to lots of city council, city commission meetings, county commission meetings, very involved, and so appreciate his involvement in local government. I saw him the other night at Barnaby's on a Friday night, got my Barnaby's fix to go, and he goes, you know, it was refreshing to see so many people smiling in government and collegial in government, and he just said, I just want it. It was worth the trip. It was worth the drive out there.
Great.
And so, and he meant it. He was sincere about it. When there's so much ugliness and so much divisiveness,
Absolutely.
that he'd come in here was a breath of fresh air.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a big
Yes, and I have to say thank you, Mr. Superintendent. Kathleen Rogers, if you're listening, thank you, Dr. Rogers. Thank you and your staff. We really do appreciate all you do, and I do know the difference. So I thank you for that. Okay. Thank you for catching that one for me. Anything else? All minds clear?
But I too want to just say this right quick. Yes, Anita Davis was an extraordinary.
Absolutely.
And I think you are right to describe that we stand squarely on the shoulders of
Yes, we do.
giants.
Absolutely.
You got to say that.
And as her heir,
So that's it.
I want to acknowledge her enormous contribution to this community and how her legacy will endure for a very long time.
You're absolutely right. And I have to say this. Had not Anita Davis done in this county what she did, you and I may not be here today. Anita Davis was the driving force behind single-member districts. That is still very important to us. And because she did what she did and paid the price of doing and making the community understand how important leadership was to represent, we do what we do today. And we are a good board, I think, because of Anita, too. We are a good board, y'all. I mean, I'm not just saying that. I mean that because I talk to my Florida School Boards Association members all over the state. Joy, how do you all do it? You don't fuss, you don't fight, you're not fussing with your superintendent. I want to know what it is. So I'm not looking for anything other than to say more, give more. That's what I'm saying. All minds clear. Good night.
Thank you.
Except on Monday.